Right now on 12 News at noon, Hurricane Sally slamming the Gulf shores, making landfall overnight. A federal officer injured when a gunman opens fire in downtown Phoenix. And first daughter, that is, Ivanka Trump, stumps for her dad right here in the Valley. 12 at 12 starts right now. 12 minutes, no commercials. And now we are live statewide. So a big shout out to all of our viewers down in Tucson. We're on TV and on the go on the 12 News app, Facebook, and YouTube. Hey guys, it's Trisha here in for TMI today. We want to start with a big weather alert this noon as Hurricane Sally makes landfall in the southeast. Hurricane Sally has made landfall on the Gulf Coast, but at a crawling pace. With high winds, powerful waves, and drenching rain, Sally's still battering the Gulf shores of Alabama. The slow-moving storm is creating life-threatening conditions all the way from Louisiana down to Florida. Officials are warning people in the area need to hunker down and stay out of harm's way, as the worst of the storm's impact may still lie ahead.
It's bad. It's going to take a considerable amount of time to clean up from this. We have extensive flood damage in Escambia County.
The biggest concern, the rain. It's approaching 3 feet in some areas. Can you believe it? Posing the risk of historic flooding. High water rescues are already underway in some areas. Meteorologist Crystal Henderson is joining us now with more details on this big storm. Crystal?
Sally is a rain machine as she sluggishly crawls to the northeast, continuing to bring round after round after round of record rainfall, leading to fierce flooding. Some spots could receive 30 inches of rainfall. How long has it taken us to read a rainfall total like that? Well, you would have to tally up the rainfall over the past 3 years in Tucson to get a number like that. Make it 5 years for Phoenix and Winslow, 6 years in Lake Havasu, and it has taken a decade to fill up the Yuma rain gauge with a total around 30 inches. Not a drop out of the skies today. In fact, it's still just some smoke pent up there. No monsoon activity, only a couple weeks left to go until monsoon officially expired. Now, we are feeling very parched since this dry weather is ongoing, so make sure you suck down that water. You're especially going to need it in the days ahead as we have high heat and high pollution teaming up in Phoenix Metro with temperatures right around that 110 mark and crummy air quality to go along with it. The mercury is going to be hitting up around these records in Phoenix, Tucson, Yuma, even outside the warned zone. We could be tying or breaking records today or tomorrow. So all eyes on the thermometer. Then a wind maker is going to slide into the picture by the end of the week, which is going to raise our risk of fire danger.
Praying for rain before monsoon completely wraps up. Thank you, Crystal. Well, Decision 2020 is keeping its focus on Arizona. We've already seen a visit from President Trump this week, but the campaign isn't stopping there. Right now, the president's daughter, Ivanka, is stumping in Phoenix for her dad. She's currently taking part in a roundtable with Governor Doug Ducey focused on working families and tax cuts. This is her first visit here to Arizona since her father was elected. And our very own Team 12's Tram Mai is covering Ivanka's visit, and we'll have much more from the first daughter coming up later today on First at 4. We will continue to follow Ivanka Trump's visit to Phoenix all day long, on air and online. Her visit is all part of a massive campaign strategy to retain the Republican hold on Arizona. And Ivanka won't be the last to visit this week. Tomorrow, Second Lady Karen Pence will head to Arizona, followed by the Vice President Mike Pence on Friday. Make sure to stay with 12 News for Decision 2020 coverage all the way through Election Day. You can download the app to get all the latest updates and fact checks. Hashtag most clicked. Here are the stories piquing everyone's interest right now. Tense moments in downtown Phoenix last night. This as a person with a gun opens fire outside the federal courthouse, shooting a security officer. Let's head over to Team 12's Jen Wall, who joins us outside the courthouse this noon.
Yeah, investigators still have not said who the suspect is or why someone would shoot outside of the federal courthouse in Phoenix. But as you can imagine, it was quite alarming for everyone in the area yesterday when those shots rang out.
So make sure everybody's getting behind cover.
It was like bam, bam, and then after that it was like a pause, and then after that they just unloaded, I guess.
There's a lot of law enforcement around where the shots went off outside of the courthouse, and Phoenix PD headquarters is right across the street. Here's what we know so far. A suspect shot a gun outside the courthouse right before lunch yesterday. Now, officials say the shot hit the security guard in his bulletproof vest. Medics rushing him to the hospital, and he is expected to be okay. That security guard is a U.S. Marshal assigned to courthouse security. Police finding the suspect's vehicle and driver about 16 blocks away near 9th Street and Van Buren. Now, the FBI is leading the case. They're not saying anything about the suspect just yet. Again, we are told one person is in custody. Stay with 12 News for updates. We're in Phoenix. Jen Wall, 12 News.
Jen, thank you. There are new developments in a deadly self-driving Uber crash from a couple years ago in Tempe. Police say Rafaela Vasquez was behind the wheel of the car when it hit and killed a woman walking across the street. Now a grand jury has charged Vasquez with 1 count of negligent homicide. Investigators say she was streaming an episode of The Voice at the time of the crash. The Coconino County Sheriff's Office is now investigating 2 suspicious wildfires just north of Flagstaff within the past few days. Look at this. The most recent breaking out yesterday morning in the Doney Park neighborhood, forcing several people to evacuate. That fire is fully contained, but burned about 3 to 4 acres of land. Firefighters are still working to try to determine just what exactly started the fire to ignite in the first place. So far, both fires have been labeled suspicious. We're told a woman was questioned about the fires, but no arrests have been announced at this hour. A hazardous materials incident gets out of hand yesterday and injures 2 workers at ASU. The school says a routine cleaning of a chemical cabinet that was inside of a biodesign lab led to a nitrogen blast that sent 2 men who were cleaning it to the hospital. ASU Senior Director of Environmental Health and Safety says the cabinet overpressurized, which is highly unusual. We're told no students or staff members were hurt in the blast, thankfully. Well, in health headlines today, a shocking admission from the CDC. Listen to this. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confesses they failed to track the spread of coronavirus at the onset of the pandemic. The confession made the Forbes magazine that suggests the agency lacked vital information in offering guidance to the White House task force and the states about reopening in June. The CDC admits contact tracing and testing were ineffective right around the time President Trump attempted to roll out his Opening Up America Again plan. Here's a look at more local stories making headlines today. The first female police chief in Tempe's history is stepping down. Tempe Police Chief Sylvia Moyer announcing she plans to resign from her position next month. She took the job back in March of 2016. Mayor Corey Wood says he appreciates the chief's contributions to Tempe. Moyer's last day will be October 25th. An interim chief will be appointed. APS extending its moratorium on service disconnections, all to help families impacted by the pandemic. The company first put the hold on cutoffs in place that were back in March, and the moratorium will now be in place until the end of the year. So good news for a lot of folks here. Also, any late fees related to a customer's bill will be waived as well. If you're worried about just how much an overdue bill is going to cost you on the back end, APS does have several payment assistance programs in place for anyone out there who needs them. Big news from the Big Ten. The conference announcing football will resume next month. The Council of Presidents and Chancellors voted unanimously to resume the season starting the weekend of October 23rd through the 24th. Mark your calendars. All student athletes, coaches, trainers, and other individuals that are on the field for practices and games will undergo daily antigen testing. A lot of folks can't wait. Well, now let's get to our juice today. We're talking beer and wine. And when you think of a nice glass of wine, you probably don't think tacos, do you? And you definitely don't think Taco Bell, right? But the fast food chain wants to change that. Their latest creation, it's not the toasted cheesy chalupa, but a jalapeno noir. Ooh. Don't worry, the wine doesn't actually taste like jalapenos if you're a kind of a wussy like myself when it comes to spice. It's made by a vineyard in Ontario, Canada, and Taco Bell says it's got notes of wild strawberry, cherry, and beetroot. Yum. But if you want a tasting, you're going to have to go north of the border. The wine is only available for a limited time in Canada or the Canadian website for $19. And we're no stranger to good beer in Arizona, but we've never had the blessing of Yangling Beer until now. The storied Philadelphia brewery is headed west for the very first time in its 191-year history. DG Yangling and Son and Molson Coors Beverage Company have come to terms to brew and sell the beer in the western U.S. And until now, it has mostly stayed along the East Coast with 2 breweries in Pennsylvania and 1 in Florida. But now the rollout means the family-owned company is going to be expanding its footprint and make it much more available. Time now for the look ahead. The stories we're going to be talking about a little bit later on today. Uber today making a big announcement ahead of November, how the rideshare giant is working to help you get to the polls on Election Day. Plus, disturbing rumors surrounding a detention center in Georgia after a whistleblower alleges women are being forced to have hysterectomies. We're investigating those claims. And that's your 12 at 12, the facts on everything you need to know in just 12 minutes. No commercials. We're always on, anywhere, anytime on 12news.com, the 12 News app, and on our socials as well. We'll see you again soon.